The Pioneer shuddered as another blast from the alien ships rocked its hull. Warning lights flashed red throughout the bridge, and the acrid smell of burning circuits filled the air. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white from the effort of staying calm under pressure. "Damage report," he called out over the chaos. Lieutenant Maria Santos looked up from her engineering console, soot smearing her face. "Forward shields are down to 40%, Captain. We've got fires in sections 7 and 12. Life support is stable, but barely." Danny Kim worked frantically at his communication station, sweat beading on his forehead. "I've managed to restore some short-range communication, sir. But the main array is completely gone." The alien ships continued their assault, their elegant vessels firing beam after beam at the struggling human craft. Commander Vextel's voice crackled through the damaged speakers, filled with fury and disbelief. "This is impossible. How can primitive insects damage Zephyrian technology? Concentrate all firepower on that vessel." Morrison watched the alien formation on his display screen. 12 ships against 1, and yet somehow the Pioneer was holding its own. The aliens' confidence was beginning to crack, visible even through their arrogant posturing. They had expected an easy victory, but humans had never achieved anything by taking the easy path. Robert Morrison said to his tactical officer, "What's our weapons status?" Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes studied his display with the concentration of a chess master planning 10 moves ahead. "Forward phasers are still operational, but our torpedo tubes took a direct hit. We're down to maybe 6 shots total." Maria looked up from her console again. "Captain, I might be able to boost our shield strength by rerouting power from non-essential systems, but it would mean shutting down everything except life support and basic propulsion." "Do it," Morrison ordered immediately. "We need to stay in this fight." As Maria worked, the Pioneer's lights dimmed throughout the ship. Non-critical systems powered down one by one, but the shields began to glow brighter on the displays. Every crew member understood what was happening. They were putting everything they had into one last desperate stand. "Captain," Danny said suddenly, his voice tight with excitement, "I'm picking up something interesting in their communication signals. They're using a standard protocol, but there are patterns I can recognize." Morrison felt a spark of hope. "Can you tap into their network?" "I think so, but I'll need a few minutes. Their encryption is sophisticated, but not impossible to crack. Take whatever time you need." "Robert, can we cause some real damage if we get a clean shot?" Hayes studied the alien formations again. "Their lead ship has a weak point in its aft section. If we could get behind it, then that's exactly what we're going to do." Morrison grabbed the ship's intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. We're going to show these aliens what humans do when cornered. We don't run, we don't surrender, and we sure as hell don't go down without a fight." The crew's response came through the communication system, voices strong despite their fear. "Hi, Captain. Ready when you are, sir. Let's teach them some manners." The Pioneer's engines roared as Maria pushed more power into the propulsion systems. The ship lurched forward, surprising the alien vessels that had been maintaining a comfortable distance, while pounding the human craft with energy weapons. "Come on, you overgrown tin cans," Morrison muttered under his breath. "Let's see how tough you are when we're not playing by your rules." The Pioneer dove toward the nearest asteroid in the system, using its smaller size and superior maneuverability to weave between the rocks. Alien beams scorched past them, missing by mere meters as the human ship twisted and turned through the natural obstacle course. "Got it," Danny shouted triumphantly. "I'm in their communication network. And Captain, you're not going to believe what I'm seeing." "What is it?" "They're not as coordinated as they want us to think. Their commanders are arguing with each other, questioning Vextel's tactics. They're losing confidence fast." Morrison felt his spirits lift. The aliens' arrogance was their weakness, and humans had always been experts at exploiting overconfidence. Robert, where's their lead ship? On our port side, about 2,000 meters out. Why? Because I think it's time we introduced Commander Vextel to the concept of surprise. The Pioneer burst out from behind an asteroid, its weapons blazing. The concentrated fire caught the alien lead ship completely off guard, scoring hits along its elegant hull. Sparks and debris erupted from the vessel's aft section, exactly where Hayes had identified the weakness. The alien ship lurched sideways, its graceful movements suddenly awkward and uncoordinated. For a moment, the entire alien fleet fell silent, shocked by the damage inflicted by a single human vessel. Did you see that? Maria laughed with relief and excitement. We actually hurt them. Vextal's voice returned, now filled with rage rather than confidence. Impossible. This will not stand. All ships destroy that human vessel immediately. But the aliens' response was hesitant. Their disciplined formation wavered as individual commanders questioned orders that had already proven flawed. The mighty Zephyrian Empire was showing cracks in its armor, and humans had always been good at finding weaknesses. More good news, Captain, Danny reported. I've accessed their tactical data. Their ships have a blind spot in their sensor coverage, right in the sweet spot where we need to be. Morrison grinned. Then let's go dancing in their blind spot. The Pioneer executed a complex maneuver, using the asteroid field as cover, while positioning itself for another attack run. Maria had managed to restore partial power to their torpedo tubes, and Hayes had calculated the exact firing solution needed to exploit the aliens' weakness. Torpedoes armed and ready, Hayes announced. Fire when ready. 2 human torpedoes streaked through space. Their simple but effective guidance systems locked onto the damaged alien vessel. The first struck the lead ship's weakened hull, causing a massive explosion that lit up the darkness like a small star. The second found its mark on a support vessel, punching through shields that had been depleted by the extended engagement. The alien fleet recoiled in shock. 2 of their 12 ships were now severely damaged, and their advanced technology had been proven vulnerable to human ingenuity and determination. Retreat, retreat. Vextel's voice was no longer commanding, but desperate. We will return with greater forces. The alien ships broke formation, their elegant vessels scattering in all directions as they fled the battlefield. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, faced with unexpected resistance from what they considered primitive insects, chose survival over pride. Morrison watched the retreating aliens with satisfaction, but he knew this was only the beginning. They had won a battle, but the war was far from over. Damage control teams, report, he called out. Sections 7 and 12 secured, Captain, came the response. Casualties are light, but we took some hits to our hull. Maria looked up from her console, exhaustion evident in her posture. We're spaceworthy, but barely. Our engines are running on emergency power, and we've got enough air for maybe 12 hours. Morrison nodded grimly. They had bought themselves some time, but the Pioneer was essentially a crippled ship floating in deep space. They needed to get word back to Earth about the alien threat, but their communication systems were destroyed. Captain, Danny said quietly, I may have a way to send a message. Their communication protocols are similar enough to ours that I might be able to piggyback a signal on their network. How long would it take? Maybe an hour to set up, assuming their fleet stays out of range. Do it. We need Earth to know what we're facing. As Danny worked on his improvised communication system, Morrison gathered his senior officers for a briefing. The bridge was quiet, except for the hum of emergency systems and the soft crackle of damaged electronics. We've proven that humans can fight back, Morrison began, but this is just the opening round. Those aliens will be back, and they'll bring more ships. Earth needs to know what's coming. What about the damaged alien ships? Asked Robert. Should we try to capture one for study? Morrison shook his head. We're in no condition for boarding actions. Besides, I think our best intelligence will come from what Danny can gather from their communication network. Maria leaned forward in her chair. Captain, I've been thinking about our power situation. If I can jury-rig the fusion reactor, we might be able to generate enough power for a short jump to the outer system. From there, we could reach one of our automated relay stations. That's exactly the kind of thinking that's going to keep us alive, Morrison said with approval. Make it happen. As the crew worked to repair their battered ship, news of the human victory was spreading through the galaxy. Other alien civilizations that had been watching the engagement were taking notice of these primitive humans who had dared to fight back against the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Some were impressed, others were concerned, but all were curious about what this development might mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. You just picked a fight with the galaxy's apex predators. Humans ## Part 1. First. Contact gone wrong. The stars stretched endlessly across the void as the human exploration vessel USS Pioneer cruised through the Kepler 442 system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the distant sun cast its orange glow across his crew's faces. It had been 18 months since they left Earth, and the long journey was finally coming to an end. The Pioneer was on a routine survey mission, looking for signs of habitable worlds and potential resources for humanity's expanding needs. Lieutenant Maria Santos checked the engineering console for the 100th time that day. The ship's systems were running perfectly, just as they had been for the entire journey. She was the Pioneer's chief engineer, a tough woman from Texas who could fix anything with her hands and a roll of duct tape. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and grease stains decorated her uniform from the morning's maintenance checks. Captain, called out Danny Kim from the communications station. The young officer from California turned in his chair, his face showing excitement. We're picking up some unusual energy readings from the outer system. It's not like anything in our databases. Morrison walked over to the display screen. Green and blue waves pulsed across the monitor, indicating massive energy signatures moving toward them. His stomach tightened slightly. In his 12 years of space service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and they were telling him this was something big. How many contacts? He asked. At least 12, maybe more, Danny replied, his fingers dancing across the controls. They're moving fast, sir. Faster than anything we've encountered. On the main view screen, pinpricks of light appeared against the starfield. They grew larger and brighter, resolving into sleek, silver ships that seemed to glide through space with impossible grace. The alien vessels were beautiful and terrifying at the same time, their hulls reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at directly. Battle stations, Morrison ordered calmly. But hold your fire. We don't know their intentions yet. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Red lights began flashing throughout the ship, and the familiar hum of defensive systems powered up. Weapons officers checked their consoles, engineers secured loose equipment, and medical teams prepared for possible casualties. The largest alien ship moved to the front of the formation. It was easily 3 times the size of the Pioneer, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. A beam of light shot out from the vessel, and a voice filled the Pioneer's communication systems. This is Commander Vextol of the Zephyrian Empire. You are in restricted space. Surrender your vessel immediately as tribute to the Empire, and your lives will be spared. Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. Their faces showed confusion and fear, but also determination. These were good people, brave people, and they trusted their captain to make the right decisions. Commander Vextol, Morrison said, into the communication system, keeping his voice steady and respectful. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Government. We come in peace, seeking only to explore and learn about this region of space. We mean you no harm. The aliens. Response was immediate and harsh. Your ignorance is irrelevant. All lesser species must acknowledge the supremacy of the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now, or face destruction. Maria Santos leaned forward in her chair. Captain, their weapons are powering up. They're serious about this. Morrison felt the weight of command pressing down on him. He had 300 crew members, depending on his decisions, and now he was facing an impossible choice. The alien ships outnumbered them and appeared far more advanced than human technology. Commander Vextol, he tried again. Surely we can find a way to coexist. We have much to learn from each other. Silence. The alien voice boomed through the speakers. You are insects compared to the glory of the Empire. You will submit or be crushed. Without warning, one of the smaller alien ships fired. The energy beam struck the Pioneer's communication array, turning expensive equipment into twisted metal and sparking circuits. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems went offline. Communication array is down, Danny shouted over the noise. We can't send or receive long-range signals. Shields holding at 80%, reported the weapons officer, but that was just a warning shot. Vextel's voice returned, cold and merciless. This is your final chance. Surrender your ship, or we will destroy it, and all aboard. Morrison looked at his crew again. Maria was working frantically to reroute power to critical systems. Danny was trying to repair the communication equipment with his bare hands. Every person on the bridge was scared, but none of them were giving up. Negative, Commander, Morrison said firmly. We will not surrender our ship. We are explorers, not conquerors. If you wish to be enemies, then that is your choice, not ours. The alien commander's response was a roar of anger that seemed to shake the very air around them. So be it. You have chosen death over proper submission. The Zephyrian Empire will not tolerate defiance. All 12 alien ships began moving into attack positions. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy, and Morrison knew they had only seconds before the real battle began. Maria, can we get our weapons online? He asked. Working on it, Captain, she replied, her fingers flying over the controls. But we took damage to our power distribution system. Understood. Danny, any luck with communications? Negative, sir. The array is completely fried. We're flying blind here. Morrison made a quick decision. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but humans had survived on Earth for thousands of years, by being clever rather than strong. Maybe they could use that same ingenuity now. All hands, this is the captain. We're going to show these aliens what humans are really made of. We don't back down from bullies, and we don't surrender to anyone. Let's give them a fight they'll never forget. The alien ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space toward the Pioneer, but Morrison had already given the order to take evasive action. The human ship rolled and twisted, using its smaller size and greater maneuverability to avoid the worst of the attacks. Return fire, Morrison commanded. The Pioneer's weapons, though fewer in number than the alien arsenal, were lamed. Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes, the ship's tactical officer, had been studying the alien formations during the brief conversation. He targeted the lead ship's weapon systems, hoping to even the odds. The first human shots found their mark. One of the alien vessels lost power to its forward weapons, its elegant hull scarred by human firepower. The other ships hesitated for just a moment, surprised that these primitive humans could actually damage their advanced technology. Did you see that? Maria shouted with excitement. We actually hit them. Keep firing, Morrison ordered. Don't let them recover from the shock. The battle escalated quickly. Human ingenuity met alien arrogance, as the Pioneer's crew used every trick they had learned in their training and experience. They exploited gaps in the alien formation, attacked from unexpected angles, and used the asteroid field in the system for cover. Commander Vextol's voice returned, now filled with rage rather than confidence. Impossible. How can these primitive creatures fight back? Destroy them immediately. But the humans had found their rhythm. Danny managed to restore partial communication capabilities, allowing the crew to coordinate their attacks more effectively. Maria rerouted power from non-essential systems to strengthen their shields and weapons. Every crew member was performing beyond their normal capabilities, driven by the knowledge that surrender meant death. As the battle continued, word of the human resistance was spreading through the alien fleet. Other commanders were beginning to question their orders, wondering if these humans were truly as weak as they had been told. The easy victory that Vextal had promised was turning into a costly engagement that reflected poorly on the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Morrison watched his displays closely, noting the aliens' reactions and looking for weaknesses in their tactics. These beings were powerful, but they were also arrogant. They had expected to sweep through human space like a wave, encountering no resistance worth mentioning. The pioneers' fierce defense was shaking their confidence and making them question their assumptions. "Captain," Robert called out, "I'm reading multiple distress signals from their fleet. They're taking more damage than they expected." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. Maybe, just maybe, they could survive this encounter and warn Earth about the threat approaching their solar system. But first, they had to survive the current battle and prove to the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. The Pioneer rolled to starboard, dodging another barrage of alien fire while returning shots that scored hits on two different enemy vessels. The tide of the battle was turning, and for the first time since the aliens arrived, the humans had hope, unknown to both fleets. Other ships were watching this engagement from the edges of the system. News of human resistance was spreading through the galaxy, reaching ears that would remember this day and use it to shape the future of interstellar relations. The Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake by underestimating their human opponents, and that mistake would have consequences that would echo across the stars for generations to come. The Pioneer drifted silently through the outer reaches of the Kepler 442 system, its hull scarred and smoking from the fierce battle. Inside the ship, the crew worked tirelessly to keep their vessel operational while Danny Kim hunched over his improvised communication equipment, fingers flying across the controls as he tried to send a warning message back to Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood behind the young communications officer, watching the progress with growing anxiety. Every second counted now. If the Zephyrians regrouped and returned with reinforcements, the Pioneer would be sitting duck in the vast emptiness of space. "How much longer, Danny?" Morrison asked quietly. "Almost there, Captain. Their communication protocols are complex, but I'm getting through. I just need to boost the signal strength." Maria Santos looked up from the engineering console where she was working to reroute power to critical systems. "I can give you another 20% power, but that means shutting down the secondary life support systems." "Do it," Morrison ordered. "We need that message sent." The lights dimmed further throughout the ship as Maria rerouted more power to Danny's equipment. The temperature began to drop slightly in some sections, but the crew didn't complain. They understood what was at stake. Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes studied the tactical displays, watching for any sign that the alien ships might be returning. So far, the area remained clear, but space was vast and full of hiding places. "Captain," Robert said quietly, "I'm reading some unusual energy signatures from the direction of the inner system. It could be debris from the battle, or ... or there." "Coming back," Morrison finished grimly. Danny's fingers moved faster across his controls. Static filled the communication system, punctuated by fragments of alien speech that the young officer was slowly learning to decode. "There," Danny exclaimed. "I've got a clear channel to Earth. Transmitting emergency message now." The message was brief, but urgent. "This is Captain Morrison of the USS Pioneer. We have encountered hostile alien forces identified as the Zephyrian Empire. They possess advanced technology and show extreme aggression toward human vessels. Recommend immediate defensive preparations for Earth. We are transmitting tactical data and communication protocols." Pioneer is damaged and requires assistance. Message ends. As the final words transmitted through space, the Pioneer's communication system went dark. Danny slumped back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. Message sent. Captain, it should reach Earth in about 6 hours, assuming their relay stations are operational. Morrison nodded, but his attention was already focused on the tactical displays. Robert, what's our status? Alien energy signatures are definitely moving, sir. Multiple contacts, and they're heading away from our position. But there are too many for just the original 12 ships. Maria looked up from her console, her face grim. Captain, I'm reading massive energy outputs from the inner system. Whatever they're doing, it's big. On the main view screen, a brilliant light began to grow in the distance, not the steady glow of a star, but the pulsing brilliance of a massive fleet, preparing to jump to faster than light speeds. They're bringing reinforcements, Morrison realized. Lots of them. The Pioneer shuddered as its damaged systems struggled to maintain basic operations. Warning lights continued to flash throughout the ship, and the air grew thin as life support systems operated on minimal power. How long until we can make a jump? Morrison asked Maria. Maybe 30 minutes, if I can get the fusion reactor stabilized. But Captain, even then we're looking at a short-range jump. We won't have enough power to reach Earth directly. Where can we go? There's a small research station near Neptune's orbit. It's automated, but it might have the equipment we need to send a stronger distress signal. Morrison made his decision quickly. Set course for the Neptune station. And Maria, see if you can get some of our weapons back online. If those aliens catch up to us, we'll need everything we've got. As the Pioneer began its slow journey toward the outer system, the massive alien fleet completed their jump sequence. Hundreds of Zephyrian ships emerged from hyperspace, their elegant forms gleaming in the starlight like a silver plague descending upon the system. Supreme Admiral Korthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, his scaled face twisted in fury. The reports from Commander Vexto had been dismissed as exaggerations by lesser beings. But now the evidence was undeniable. Humans were more dangerous than anyone had believed. Locate the human vessel immediately, Korthak commanded his subordinates. I want that ship destroyed, and I want their bodies brought to me for examination. No species shows such defiance without having something to hide. The alien fleet spread out through the system, their advanced sensors searching for any sign of the damaged human ship. Vextal's damaged vessel limped back to the main fleet, its commander barely able to maintain his dignity after such a humiliating defeat. Explain yourself, Vextal, Korthak demanded, his voice like grinding metal. How could 12 ships fail to destroy a single primitive vessel? Vextal's pride warred with his fear as he recounted the battle. They fight with cunning rather than strength, Supreme Admiral. Their tactics are unpredictable, their weapons more effective than anticipated. They ... lies. Korthak roared. You have allowed fear to cloud your judgment. These humans are insects, nothing more. We will crush them and teach the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Zephyrian Empire. Meanwhile, the Pioneer continued its desperate flight toward the Neptune station. Maria worked frantically to repair critical systems, while the crew rationed their remaining resources. The ship's air recyclers were operating at half capacity, and the temperature continued to drop. Captain, Danny said weakly from his station, I'm picking up automated signals from the research station. It's still operational. Good. How long until we reach it? About an hour at current speed. But Captain, I'm also detecting multiple alien ships moving through the system. They're searching for us. Morrison studied the tactical displays, noting the spreading pattern of alien search vessels. They know we're out here somewhere. We need to reach that station before they find us. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the Pioneer. Red lights flashed urgently, and the ship's computer announced in its calm mechanical voice, multiple hostiles detected. Range, 50,000 kilometers, and closing. Robert spun around in his chair, his face pale. "Captain, we've got at least 50 alien ships converging on our position. They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Morrison felt the familiar weight of command pressing down on him. 300 lives depended on his next decision, and the odds were stacked heavily against them. "Maria, how much power can you give us for engines?" "Maybe enough for a burst of speed, but it would shut down everything else. Shields, weapons, life support. We'd be flying blind and defenseless. We're going to outrun them to that station." As Maria began rerouting power, the Pioneer's lights went completely dark, except for emergency lighting. The temperature dropped rapidly, and the crew pulled on emergency thermal suits, but the engines roared to life with power they hadn't produced in hours. The Pioneer shot forward like a bullet, its damaged hull groaning under the stress of maximum acceleration. Behind them, alien ships gave chase, their superior technology allowing them to close the distance steadily. "Range to station, 20,000 kilometers, Danny reported through chattering teeth. "But the alien ships are only 15,000 kilometers behind us." Morrison watched the numbers on his display, knowing that this was a race they might not win. But humans had never been ones to give up easily, and the Pioneer's crew embodied that fighting spirit perfectly. "Helm, maximum speed. We're going to make it to that station, if I have to push this ship apart to do it." The Pioneer hurtled through space, its crew holding their breath as alien weapons fire-streaked past their hull. The research station grew larger on their view screen, its automated systems beginning to respond to their approach. But the alien ships were closing fast, and Supreme Admiral Korthok's patience was wearing thin. He had already lost too much face over this human incident, and he wasn't about to let these primitive insects escape to warn their homeworld. "Destroy that vessel," he ordered coldly. "I want their destruction to serve as a warning to any other species thinking of defying the Empire." The alien ships increased their rate of fire, energy beams lancing through space toward the fleeing human ship. The Pioneer's hull rang like a bell under the assault, and several systems went offline as critical damage accumulated. "Shields are failing," Robert shouted over the noise of alarms and explosions. "We can't take much more of this." Morrison gripped his chair as another hit shook the ship violently. Through the chaos, he could see the research station growing larger, so close now that success seemed possible. "Hold on, everyone," he said into the ship's intercom. "We're almost there." The Pioneer made one final burst of speed, its engines screaming in protest as they pushed beyond their limits. Alien weapons fire continued to strike their hull, but somehow the ship held together long enough to reach the safety of the research station's automated defenses. As the Pioneer disappeared behind the station's protective shielding, the pursuing alien ships pulled up short, their commanders receiving new orders from Supreme Admiral on Earth. The message from the Pioneer reached deep space monitoring stations late at night. Admiral Lisa Chen was in her office at United Earth Command when the alert sounded. The soft glow of her desk lamp illuminated the dark room as she read through the transmission. Her face hardened with every word. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Sarah White, rushing into the room. "We've confirmed the signal. It's from Captain Morrison and the Pioneer." Chen nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the tactical data. She had spent years preparing for this moment, though no one had expected it to come so soon. Humanity had only begun stepping into the stars, and now they were facing a threat that could wipe them out entirely. "Get me Admiral Williams on the line," Chen ordered, "and bring Dr. Robert Hayes and Dr. Amanda Foster to the war room immediately." Minutes later, the command center buzzed with activity. Rear Admiral Sarah Williams, head of Earth's defensive fleet, stood beside Chen as holographic displays lit up the room. Maps of nearby star systems, alien ship schematics, and fragments of Zephyrian communication protocols filled the air. "This changes everything," Williams said, her voice tense. If the Zephyrians are as aggressive as Morrison says, we need to prepare for an invasion. Dr. Hayes adjusted his glasses as he studied the alien data. Their technology is far beyond ours. Their energy weapons, propulsion systems, everything is more advanced. But their tactics seem rigid, almost predictable. Dr. Foster, a linguist and expert in alien psychology, added, their arrogance is evident in these transmissions. They view us as inferior, primitive even. That might be our advantage. Chen turned to face them. We don't have time to debate advantages or disadvantages. We need to mobilize Earth's defenses now. Admiral Williams, how long until our fleet is ready? Williams hesitated before answering. Our main fleet is stationed near Mars, but most ships are outdated. We've been upgrading them with new technology, but not all systems are fully operational yet. How many ships do we have? Chen pressed. 72 vessels, including cruisers, frigates, and support craft, Williams replied, but only half are combat ready. Chen let out a slow breath. 72 ships against what could easily be hundreds of Zephyrian vessels. The odds weren't good, but humanity had survived worse. Then we'll make do with what we've got, she said firmly. Start recalling all ships from exploration missions. I want every available vessel armed and ready within 48 hours. Williams nodded and moved to issue the orders. Meanwhile, Chen turned her attention to Dr. Hayes and Dr. Foster. What can you tell me about their weaknesses? Anything we can exploit? Hayes pointed to a section of the alien ship schematic. Their power cores emit massive amounts of radiation. If we can target those areas, we might be able to disable their ships without destroying them completely. Foster chimed in, and based on their communication patterns, their commanders seem obsessed with maintaining hierarchy and protocol. They may struggle to adapt to unexpected situations. Chen absorbed this information, her mind racing. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove they belonged among the stars. They couldn't afford to lose. In orbit around Earth, military personnel scrambled to prepare the fleet. Colonel Mike Torres led ground forces training exercises while engineers worked around the clock to upgrade weapon systems. The mood was tense but focused. Everyone knew what was at stake. Lieutenant Commander Jennifer Walsh, head of electronic warfare, tested new jamming devices designed to disrupt alien communications. Her team ran simulations, trying to anticipate how the Zephyrians would respond to interference. If we can blind them, even temporarily, it could give us an edge, Walsh explained during a briefing. But we need to be careful. Their sensors are incredibly sensitive. Admiral Williams listened carefully, making notes. Every piece of intelligence mattered. What about countermeasures? Can we protect our own systems from similar attacks? We're working on it, Walsh replied. Our shield generators are being modified to handle both physical and electronic threats, but it's going to take time. Time was something they didn't have much of. Reports indicated that the Zephyrian fleet was moving toward human space, and they were bringing overwhelming numbers. Back at the research station near Neptune, the Pioneer limped into dock. The crew worked tirelessly to repair critical systems, while Captain Morrison coordinated with Earth Command. Danny Kim managed to establish a stable connection using the station's powerful transmitters. Captain Morrison, Admiral Chen's voice came through clearly. Your message has been received. We're mobilizing our forces, but we need more time. Morrison sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew there wouldn't be much time. Admiral, the Zephyrians aren't just aggressive. They're arrogant. They see us as insects to be crushed. If we can hit them hard enough early on, we might buy ourselves some breathing room. Chen agreed. That's exactly what we're planning. Use the station's resources to gather as much intel as possible. Every bit of information helps. While Morrison spoke with Chen, Maria Santos worked alongside the station's automated repair drones to patch up the Pioneer's hull. The damage was extensive. but she refused to give up. "We'll get her flying again," Maria told her engineering team. "Even if we have to weld the damn thing together ourselves." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes analyzed the station's sensor data, looking for patterns in Zephyrian movements. He noticed something peculiar. Despite their technological superiority, the aliens relied heavily on pre-programmed attack formations. "They're predictable," Hayes reported to Morrison. "Their ships move in specific patterns, almost like a dance. If we can anticipate their moves, we can counter them effectively." Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "Good work, Robert. Pass that info along to Earth Command. They'll need it." As the Pioneer's crew worked to survive and gather intelligence, the Zephyrian fleet continued its advance. Supreme Admiral Korthak remained determined to crush humanity before they could mount a proper defense. "The humans think hiding behind their primitive defenses will save them," Korthak sneered during a meeting with his commanders. "They will learn the price of defiance." Vextol, still smarting from his earlier failure, volunteered to lead the assault on Earth. "Supreme Admiral, allow me to redeem myself. I will personally oversee the destruction of their homeworld." Korthak considered this for a moment. "Very well, but remember, Vextol, failure will not be tolerated again." On Earth, preparations intensified. Civilian populations were evacuated from coastal cities and other vulnerable areas. Military bases went on high alert, and emergency broadcasts warned citizens of the impending threat. Admiral Chen addressed the United Earth Council, her tone grave but resolute. "This is not just a battle for territory or resources. This is a fight for our place in the galaxy. We must show the Zephyrians, and any other species watching, that humanity cannot be underestimated." The council members nodded solemnly. For the first time in history, humanity united under a single cause: survival. As the days passed, Earth's fleet grew stronger. Ships were upgraded with experimental weapons, and crews trained tirelessly for the coming battle. Scientists developed new technologies based on the data sent by the Pioneer, adapting alien concepts to fit human needs. Dr. Foster worked closely with linguists to create a basic dictionary of the Zephyrian language, hoping to understand their culture better. "If we know how they think," she explained, "we can predict how they'll act." In deep space, the Zephyrian fleet approached human territory. Hundreds of sleek silver ships formed a massive armada, their weapons charged and ready. Korthak watched from his flagship, his cold eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Humans," he muttered, "you should have surrendered when you had the chance." Unbeknownst to him, humanity was preparing to fight back with everything they had. The battle lines were drawn, and the galaxy held its breath. The Zephyrians believed they were dealing with primitive insects, but humans had always thrived in the face of adversity. Earth's defenders stood ready, their resolve unshaken. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Zephyrians lacked: the will to survive. And sometimes, that was enough to change the course of history, as the two sides prepared for war. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine the fate of humanity. The galaxy's apex predators had picked a fight with a species that refused to go quietly into the night. What happened next would echo through the stars for generations to come. The Zephyrian fleet moved with precision through the darkness of space, their sleek ships gliding like predators closing in on prey. Supreme Admiral Korthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as the armada approached Titan, one of Saturn's moons. Intelligence reports had confirmed a human colony there, and Korthak saw it as the perfect opportunity to strike fear into the hearts of humanity. "Prepare for orbital bombardment," he ordered coldly. "We will show these insects what happens when they defy the Zephyrian Empire." But unknown to Korthak, Admiral Lisa Chen had anticipated this move. Earth's military leaders had studied the Pioneer's data carefully, particularly the way humans had used Titan's complex environment during earlier simulations. The moon's thick atmosphere and unpredictable weather patterns made it an ideal place to ambush the Zephyrians. On Titan, Colonel Mike Torres, lead ground forces preparing for the coming attack. His soldiers wore thermal suits designed to withstand the freezing temperatures and low gravity of the moon. They worked quickly to set up hidden defenses, burying explosives beneath the icy surface and positioning anti-aircraft turrets in strategic locations. "We're not just defending this colony," Torres told his troops. "We're making a statement. If the Zephyrians want a fight, we'll give them one they won't forget." Above Titan, Rear Admiral Sarah Williams commanded Earth's defensive fleet. Her ships were scattered throughout the moon's upper atmosphere, cloaked by layers of dense clouds and electromagnetic interference. The plan was risky. Earth's vessels were still outnumbered, but the element of surprise could turn the tide. "Remember," Williams said over the communication system, "we only get one shot at this. Stay hidden until my signal." As the fleet entered orbit around Titan, their sensors struggled to penetrate the thick haze covering the moon. Commander Vextal, leading the assault, grew frustrated. "This primitive world should pose no challenge," he muttered. "Why can't we locate their colony?" Korthak's voice crackled through the communication system. "Enough delays. Begin the bombardment immediately." Energy beams lanced down from the alien ships, striking the frozen surface of Titan. Explosions erupted across the landscape, sending plumes of ice and dust into the air. But something was wrong. The explosions seemed too small, too controlled. There were no signs of panic or destruction on the scale they expected. "They're not hitting anything important," Lieutenant Commander Jennifer Walsh observed from her station aboard Williams' flagship. "Their targeting systems are blind." Williams smiled grimly. "That's because we're not where they think we are." Moments later, Earth's fleet emerged from the clouds, launching a coordinated attack against the unsuspecting Zephyrians. Human ships darted between the alien vessels, using Titan's atmosphere to mask their movements. Missiles streaked through space, finding weak points in the Zephyrian hulls that Dr. Hayes' research had identified. The aliens reeled in shock. "Ambush," Vextal shouted. "How is this possible?" "It doesn't matter how," Korthak snarled. "Destroy them." But the humans were ready. On the ground, Colonel Torres gave the order to detonate the buried explosives. Massive eruptions tore through the ice, sending shards of frozen debris hurtling toward the alien ships. Caught off guard, several Zephyrian vessels lost control and crashed into Titan's surface. In space, Admiral Williams directed her fleet with cool efficiency. "Focus fire on their command ships," she ordered. "Take out their leadership, and the rest will fall apart." Lieutenant Commander Walsh's electronic warfare team jammed Zephyrian communications, creating chaos among the alien ranks. Without clear orders, individual ships began making mistakes, colliding with each other or firing blindly into the void. Back on Titan, Colonel Torres led a daring counterattack. Ground forces launched missiles from portable launchers, targeting the alien ships hovering low in the atmosphere. The projectiles struck true, disabling engines and crippling weapon systems. "This isn't supposed to happen," Vextal screamed, his pride shattered. "We are the superior species." "You're arrogant," came a voice over the open channel. It was Captain Jake Morrison, who had managed to bring the repaired Pioneer into the fight. "And arrogance makes you blind." The Pioneer joined the battle, its weapons blazing. Though smaller than many of the alien ships, it moved with unmatched agility, weaving through the chaos and delivering precise strikes. Maria Santos had rigged the ship's engines to produce bursts of speed that left the Zephyrians struggling to keep up. Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold from Earth Command, her heart pounding with pride. Humanity was holding its own against overwhelming odds, proving that courage and ingenuity could overcome even the most advanced technology. "Keep pushing," she ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The Zephyrians tried to retreat, but Earth's fleet pursued relentlessly. Admiral Williams gave the order to form a blockade, trapping the remaining alien ships in Titan's orbit. Cut off from reinforcements and unable to communicate effectively, the invaders found themselves surrounded. Korthok's fury knew no bounds. Retreat? Never. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not run from insects. But his commanders were less confident. Many had already lost faith in Vextol's leadership, and now they questioned Korthok's judgment as well. The human resistance was proving far more formidable than anyone had anticipated. On the ground, Colonel Torres pressed his advantage. Ground forces captured several damaged Sephorian ships, giving scientists valuable insight into alien technology. Dr. Foster and her team worked tirelessly to decode the captured data, uncovering secrets that would help humanity prepare for future battles. As the battle raged on, news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien species, some of whom had suffered under Zephyrian rule, took notice of Earth's defiance. Embassies from distant star systems began reaching out, curious about these newcomers who dared to challenge the mighty Empire. Captain Morrison, flying the Pioneer alongside Earth's fleet, felt a surge of hope. This isn't just about survival anymore, he said to his crew. It's about showing the galaxy that we belong here, that we're equals. The Zephyrians fought fiercely, but their rigid tactics and overconfidence proved to be their undoing. One by one, their ships fell victim to human ingenuity and determination. By the time the battle ended, nearly half of the alien fleet lay in ruins. While Earth's forces had suffered minimal losses, Supreme Admiral Korthok retreated with what remained of his armada, vowing revenge. But even he couldn't deny the truth. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. Admiral Chen addressed her officers after receiving reports of the victory. Today, we showed the galaxy what humans are made of, but this is only the beginning. The Zephyrians will return, and next time, they'll come with everything they've got. Her words carried both warning and promise. Humanity had proven it could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's apex predators. But the war was far from over. For now, though, Earth celebrated its first major victory, a triumph, born not of strength, but of resilience, creativity, and an unshakable will to survive. In the aftermath of the Battle of Titan, alliances began to form. Alien races who had once dismissed humans as insignificant now saw them as potential partners or threats. The balance of power in the galaxy shifted ever so slightly, and humanity found itself at the center of a new era. The Zephyrians had picked a fight with a species that refused to back down, and as the galaxy watched, they realized one thing. Humans weren't just survivors, they were fighters. The aftermath of the Battle of Titan left the galaxy buzzing with news of humanity's unexpected resistance. For decades, the Zephyrian Empire had dominated neighboring species through sheer force and intimidation. Now, a group of human small, fragile beings from a distant blue planet had stood their ground and won. The ripple effects of this victory began spreading far beyond Saturn's icy moon. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Chen gathered her senior officers. In the war room, holographic displays flickered to life, showing maps of human-controlled space and the growing threat posed by the Zephyrians. Despite their recent success at Titan, Chen knew the fight was far from over. This was just one battle, she said firmly, pacing in front of the assembled leaders. Korthok will be back, and next time, he'll bring everything he has. We need allies if we're going to survive. Admiral Sarah Williams nodded, her face grim. We've already started reaching out to other species. Some have responded cautiously, but others are refusing to get involved. They don't want to anger the Zephyrians. Colonel Mike Torres leaned forward, his voice steady. Then we make them see what's at stake. If the Zephyrians crush us, they'll come for everyone else next. No one is safe unless we stop them here and now. Dr. Amanda Foster, who had been analyzing intercepted alien communications, spoke up. There are two factions that might help. US the Vorthok and the Krell both have suffered under Zephyrian rule, but they couldn't do anything about it until now. The Vorthok are peaceful, Dr. Robert Hayes added. They value knowledge above all else. If we can convince them that working with us benefits their survival, they might share their advanced technology. And the Krell? Chen asked. The Krell are warriors, Hayes replied. They hate the Zephyrians almost as much as we do, but they're also territorial and distrustful. Convincing them won't be easy. Chen turned to Ambassador Patricia King, a soft-spoken diplomat known for her ability to build bridges where none seemed possible. Patricia, you'll lead our efforts to reach out to these species. Take Dr. Foster with you, they'll respect her expertise in alien languages. King nodded, adjusting her glasses. I'll leave immediately. Time is critical. Meanwhile, aboard the Pioneer, Captain Jake Morrison and his crew prepared for their next mission. The ship had been patched up enough to fly, though Maria Santos warned it wouldn't hold up under another major battle anytime soon. We need better weapons, Morrison said during a briefing. Something that can level the playing field against those alien ships. Lieutenant Danny Kim raised his hand hesitantly. Sir, while I was decoding their communication protocols, I noticed something interesting. Their power cores emit a specific frequency like a signature. If we could develop a weapon tuned to that frequency, it might disrupt their systems entirely. Morrison's eyes lit up. That's brilliant, Danny. Pass that information along to Dr. Hayes. Maybe he can figure out how to weaponize it. As the Pioneer set course for Earth, word of its role in the Battle of Titan spread among the crew. Morale soared, despite the damage to the ship. These were ordinary people, engineers, scientists, soldiers who had risen to extraordinary challenges. They weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every human being on Earth. Elsewhere in the galaxy, Supreme Admiral Korthak seethed in his command chamber. His once unstoppable fleet had been humiliated by primitives. Worse still, whispers of rebellion were beginning to emerge from within the ranks. Several subordinate commanders questioned whether the humans were truly as weak as they had been led to believe. Silence. Korthak roared, slamming his fist onto the control panel. The humans are nothing more than insects wielding stolen technology. Their victory was a fluke, a mistake we will not repeat. Commander Vextal, standing nearby, shifted uncomfortably. He had lost face after the Pioneer incident, and his failure at Titan had only made things worse. Still, he dared to speak. Supreme Admiral, perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. If they possess such clever tactics, perhaps they could serve the Empire rather than oppose it. Korthak's glare silenced him instantly. Negotiation is weakness. The humans must be exterminated completely. Any suggestion otherwise is treason. But even Korthak couldn't ignore the growing unrest within the Empire. Other species under Zephyrian control watched the events unfold with cautious optimism. Could the humans truly stand against the mighty Empire? Or would they crumble under sustained pressure? Ambassador Patricia King and Dr. Amanda Foster traveled aboard a small diplomatic vessel to meet with representatives of the Vorthok. The journey took several days, during which Foster worked tirelessly to refine her understanding of the Vorthok language and customs. When they arrived, they found themselves face to face with Elder Triss, a towering figure with translucent skin that shimmered like water. Triss studied them carefully, his large, luminous eyes betraying no emotion. Why should the Vorthok involve themselves in your conflict? Triss asked, his voice calm but firm. Your war does not concern us. Foster stepped forward, speaking slowly and clearly in the Vorthok tongue. Because your survival depends on ours. If the Zephyrians destroy us, they will turn their attention to you. Together, we can protect both our peoples. Triss considered this for a long moment before responding. You speak wisely, but trust must be earned. What do you offer in return? King stepped in, choosing her words carefully. Knowledge, technology, a partnership built on mutual respect. Help us defeat the Zephyrians, and we will share everything we learn. After hours of deliberation, Triss agreed to provide limited support. The Vorthok would supply advanced shielding technology and intelligence on Zephyrian weaknesses, but only if humanity proved itself worthy of their alliance. Encouraged by this partial success, King and Foster moved on to negotiate with the Krell. Unlike the Vorthok, the Krell were aggressive and suspicious. Their leader, Warlord Garthok, greeted them with crossed arms and a scowl. "You expect us to fight alongside humans?" Garthok growled. "What makes you think we care about your survival?" King met his gaze without flinching. "Because the Zephyrians see all non-Zephyrians as inferior, including you. Once they finish with us, they'll come for you next. Fighting together gives us a chance to end their tyranny once and for all." Garthok laughed harshly. "Bold words for such a small creature. Very well, we will join your cause. But know this, if you falter, we will abandon you without hesitation." With tentative alliances secured, King and Foster returned to Earth, bringing valuable resources and renewed hope. Humanity was no longer alone in its struggle against the Zephyrians back on Earth. Preparations continued. Engineers worked around the clock to upgrade the fleet using Vorthok shielding technology. Training simulations became more intense, focusing on exploiting Zephyrian weaknesses identified by Dr. Hayes and Danny Kim. Civilian populations braced for potential attacks, knowing that the coming battles would test humanity's resolve like never before. Admiral Chen addressed her officers once again, her tone resolute. "The Zephyrians underestimated us once. Let's make sure they never make that mistake again. Every ship, every soldier, every scientist, everyone plays a part in this war. Together, we will show the galaxy that humanity cannot be broken." As Earth's defenders readied themselves for the next phase of the conflict, the Zephyrians regrouped and planned their counterattack. Supreme Admiral Korthak vowed to crush humanity completely, unaware that the tide was slowly turning against him. In the vast expanse of space, alliances formed and enemies prepared for war. Humanity had taken its first steps toward proving itself as a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy's apex predators had picked a fight with a species driven by courage, ingenuity, and an unshakable determination to survive, and they were about to discover just how dangerous humans could be.